Hello and welcome to the Glamptuary Podcast, where we talk about the experiential outdoor hospitality industry and glamping. I'm your host, Bobby Marsden. We are now in episode 8 of season 2 of the Glamptuary Podcast, which means we are back with Jesse Roesler and Air Outpost. Last we spoke with Jesse, he did a deep dive into all the steps he took to set his Glamptuary up from a legal perspective. And now that his business is set up correctly, it's time to market it. Fortunately, Jesse comes from an extensive background in marketing and advertising, and he is fresh out drafting a show for Discovery Plus called Bespoke Inns, where he was able to feature 15 different experiential outdoor hospitality offerings around the country. Now, Jesse can take all those skills he's acquired over the years and apply them to his own Glamptuary. In this episode, we're going to hear from Jesse about all the things he's doing and what he recommends for would-be Glamptuary owners out there who would like to market their business. So without further ado, let's dive into episode 8 with Jesse Roesler and Air Outpost. Hey Jesse, good to see you again.
Good to see you, Bobby.
So last time we spoke, we talked about what you have to do to properly set up your business. And obviously the next step in the business, once you get it set up, is to tell the rest of the world about it. And we're going to call that marketing and advertising, which you have an extensive background. So this is going to be exciting for us to have the opportunity to talk with you about some of the skill sets that you are taking from your professional life and applying into this professional life.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be a fun one.
Yeah. Well, first question, where do you start? When you're setting up a business that's obviously very visually driven, you have to captivate someone's attention immediately online and cut through the clutter and get them excited about potentially seeing this in person. Where did you start? What did you do and how did you go about it?
Yeah. So, I mean, to your point, this is what I do professionally and allowed me to be able to self-fund this is by telling the stories of other businesses and other brands. And so I think in brand storytelling, I love the idea. I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek and Start With Why. So, we had a very clear why for why we were creating this place. I think I mentioned in an earlier episode, we were inspired by the guests of our podcast, Open Air Humans. We believe time in nature makes us happier, healthier, more creative. And we wanted to give people the opportunity to do that, to find a restorative place where they could experience those benefits and build a lot of the values and themes of that show into what the experience of staying there was. So we had a very clear why and the thing we talk a lot about is purpose driven. So this is not just a rental property. There's a lot here that allows you to live, the purpose of the podcast, which is connecting with nature in a way that is really meaningful. So we started there and then built, both what is that experience? And then the story that wraps all that experience together. And then it's that story, purpose-driven story. And then the visual, to your point, like this is a very visual story to tell, right? This place has a beauty, the structure has a beauty to it, how to capture that in a way that attracts eyes and views, but also ties into the story of the nature immersion experience we want to give people. So it was being very thoughtful about that and then drafting, the copy for the website, capturing the imagery for the website, soon to be video as well. It's just been still imagery to this point, but, having a specific eye and a specific lens on it. And then to your point, also sharing it, all the guests of our podcast, my network of people that are, outdoorsy folks are a big part of that. And we can talk about that strategy as well. But I think the first thing was just building the identity online, both visually and story-wise. And then it's like, okay, now we need to amplify what we've created.
Yeah, and then amplifying it, I assume, part of that's a social strategy. Are you up on various social networks? Are there ones that you think are going to be operating better for you than others? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, at this point, we are just Instagram. I feel like that's a great space where I've seen other properties do really well that I would say are in the same realm or ballpark of what we're doing. There's something about that, if you can find the right image that grabs people's attention, I think that's a great platform. So we're focusing our time and energy there. Also because we have, some friends and people we've worked with in the past that, their following is very nature focused. And so we know that there'll be perfect partnerships there in terms of amplifying what we're offering to the right people. So that's where we focused.
And you said something interesting there about brand partnerships. Talk a little bit more about that. How can someone go about making those connections and finding those relationships that eventually, there's some synergy that operate both ways. And so, one can help the other. How important would you say that is? And what kinds of things are you looking at?
We've found it to be incredibly important. And there's there's something about influencer culture that I find a little repulsive at times. And I think there's great satire that's come out about that in recent years too. And justly so. I mean, you really got to be careful. I mean, there are accounts with lots of fake followerships. And I think it is about not just looking for someone with a big number in their followership, but someone who is authentically sharing things that you feel represent your values and that the people that are following them are going to share in common those same values, really. And it's part of the reason we're not even on Airbnb yet. We're not starting wide. Some people may want to do that, but we want to make sure we're attracting people that are going to respect. We want it to be quiet, a place you can enjoy nature. So we don't want big rowdy groups. And we know by partnering with people that have the types of followerships that we know they have, we can attract the right type of guests who will not only appreciate, but they'll also respect what we're doing too. So I think if you can be very thoughtful about who you're partnering with, as we found, like, that was huge for us. We put everything out there. I sent it to, everyone in my network, and we got a few bookings. And then I had my friend who has a sizable followership, but also is of, the type of person that would appreciate what we're doing here and what the experience is. And we had her come stay. And when she posted, it was like, okay, that's when it really started to open up and the bookings really started coming in.
That's cool. And you mentioned bookings, so congratulations. Obviously, whatever you're doing in marketing is paying off. We're excited to talk with you about that. And I think, we're going to save that for another episode because I feel like there's probably a lot to discuss when it comes down to how you felt with that first booking and then eventually what that experience was. But I think before we get to that point, I think, at least for me, if I have guests coming over to my house, I'll do the quick clean up everything, straighten everything, try and make it presentable. And so I'm guessing, maybe you were thinking the same thing is, oh my God, now we got a booking. We really got to go through this property with a fine tooth comb and make sure this thing is ready to make a great first impression. So that's what I'd love to cover with you on the next episode. It's just all the cool, fine details and design elements that I know that you put a lot of thought into.
Yeah, absolutely. There's sort of the soft opening where we've had friends stay and then we ask them like, hey, was anything missing? What do you think? And then there's like the hard opening where it's the first time strangers are going to be coming in. And then you really start to, with a microscope, like, okay, do we have everything done? So yeah, there'll be plenty to talk about there.
All right, cool, Jesse. Well, I'll let you go and we'll look forward to that on the next episode.
Sounds great. Thanks, Bobby.
I want to thank Jesse again for his time and for providing some very useful and insightful information when it comes to marketing and advertising and how to successfully do that for your business. If you want to see Jesse's marketing and advertising work in action, you can do so on his website, where you can also book a stay with him. You can do all of that at www.openairoutpost.com. And if you'd like to follow this podcast and follow Jesse's journey and follow season 2, which also includes At the End's journey, you can do so on our website, which is www.glamptuary.com. That is www.glamptuary.com. You can also follow along on Apple Podcasts, Pandora Podcasts, Stitcher, and YouTube. We don't care where you follow us. We just ask that you follow. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.